All right, so you just saw it. The Last Dance episode 3 just ended. I'm giving my review on it just like everybody else is because, man, it just brings back so many memories. It brings back so many things that we used to do during this Bulls run. And I just want to give my recollection of it as well. So I got my notes here. It's a couple things that stood out to me. You know, it's like you see the old school Lakers, you see the old school Celtics, and Magic had you outside, working on your no look passes. Magic had you outside working on your hook shots in the post, little baby hooks. He had you working on your running hook shots. But mainly it was just a no look pass, right? Bird had everybody out there working on that 3-point shot. He had you working on the post moves, the fadeaway, etc. But again, it's like when you see the superstars of today versus Jordan, it was just like it was a wave. It was a phenomenon. It was so many little things all put into one. I mean, before we even get to the basketball game that the man had, I mean, it was like the flair, the style, the shorts, the shoes, the socks, the knee brace, the armband right here before every game, the baggy shorts, the t-shirts, the shoes, the sweatshirts, the hat, the emblem. I mean, he had you. He was a package. He is what marketing is, and he had you before you even got to the game. And then you get to the game, and it's like he didn't let you down. It was the air, the flight, it was the moves, it was the skill, it was the grace, the agility. It never was about being the best, the most athletic guard. I'm not sure he was more athletic than Scottie Pippen. You had guys that were just as athletic as him. Drexler, Dr. J, Kendall Gill come to mind. But it was just like the whole. He would put on his cape and go into this room, and when the game started, he would come out, and it was just like there was nothing you could do. It was he brought in the whole. I know they say it was from Magic to Bird to Michael, but he brought in the whole. This guy might be able to beat our whole team. I mean, think about all the guys that he's beat by himself, and then Scotty comes along, and now he's winning titles with this guy. And I mean, and don't let me forget this too, because when you think about MJ, MJ had you out there. First of all, if you're a Bulls fan, you had the free throw flip. Everybody had that 1, 2, 3 flip down. Everybody was doing that. Number two, back then you couldn't get it on the internet, but if you could get a hold of that, and now from North Carolina, if you could get a hold of that tape and that music, your high school was playing that. He had you out here. Anybody who does this up and under, you doing that because of Mike. I'm sorry. And you was out there working on your fade game. You had your tongue out. You had the palm going. I mean, you was working on all kinds of stuff because you saw Mike do this. And it wasn't like no one else had ever done this. George Gervin was doing similar stuff like this. He was floating from the air, but it was just the flare. It was like the wave that hit you. And that's what people don't understand. It was like when you watch these guys now, you know, with the exception of Kobe, rest his soul, you don't see that many skills into one player's game. Excuse me. And every year he would go home and add something new. You just don't see that. You still see, like, you get Steph Curry and he's got the runners, the floaters, he's got the under the rim layup game, he's got the 3-point game, he's got the handles. That's what I'm talking about. When you see Kyrie Irving, again, same thing. He's got the finish game, the floater package, he's got the layup package, should I say, the handle, the 3-point shot, the pull-up shot. That's what I'm talking about. When you just out there and you just bigger than everybody else and you run and dunk, you stronger than everybody else, you post up. People aren't out here imitating Karl Malone. They're just not. I mean, he had to feel good for a minute. That was about it. You're not imitating Karl Malone. You were out here imitating skill. So I just didn't want to forget that part, of what Jordan had you out there doing on the floor. When he would come up with something new, whether it be a new pass, a new skip, Jordan had people out there practicing in the way he walked and the way he chewed his bubble gum. So, I mean, it was more than just basketball at that time. And it's probably the reason why people feel like he's the greatest ever, because he had all of it. It was like the whole thing that you wanted to do, to get it, to be a part of. You wanted to be that. You wanted to learn how he did that. You knew you'd never be able to get there, but you wanted to be able to figure out, like, how is that even possible? How is this dude hanging like this in the '88 All-Star game, and then this guy comes down and then he shoots it because he had all of us hanging on, working on our hang time after that move, the '88 All-Star game. I mean, you remember where you were when with this guy, and I'm like I said, I'm glad they're just showing this documentary. I wanted to add that in before we move on to episode 5 and 6. Continue with the video. It takes me back to when I was learning how to play basketball, and some of the guys that I looked up to that were older than us and used to run the court would be like, don't make me come down and hit 10, 11, 12 straight on you. And they were serious. We thought they was joking, but they were serious. And if you're from where I'm from, you know who I'm talking about, Squid. But I heard Marv Albert during the game 2, the Lakers-Bulls finals, say Jordan hits his 12th field goal in a row. And it's just like, that's what it brought me back to, that old school mentality of don't make me hit 11, 12 straight field goals on you. And you think about some of these guys today, it's not very many NBA superstars that can hit 12 straight in practice, let alone can hit 12 straight in the NBA Finals on the highest court of the land, game 2, with guys hanging off of you, guys chasing you. You are the focal point. They know you're going to get the ball, and you still can't do anything about it. I mean, and that's just how it was with him. It was like, you knew he was getting the ball. It didn't matter if you single covered him, you double covered him. Sometimes if you triple covered him, as you saw, he's still going up, under, around, through, over. It didn't matter. It's completely different from today's game when it comes to a total package, skill level type player. It's not just about winning titles. It's like, look at the skill, the grace, the agility this man had. And, to his point, he said in the last episode, the league got bored with my skills. That's why I didn't win MVP every year. It's like the league was bored with his skills. If you think about that, they were so used to seeing more than amazing from him that they figured, well, we could give it to him every year, which they could, but they decided to give it to someone else. So, I saw a lot going on in episode 3 that, it brings back so many memories. Like I said, I forgot all about the whole Scottie Pippen contract issue, but, you got to see a little bit more of Dennis Rodman and the things that he was into at that time. And people just look at stats and rings nowadays, and they forget that, okay, Pippen didn't play the first half of the season on title number 6. Rodman was, checking in, checking out when he wanted to. Management was fighting against him. The roster, him being Jordan, the roster was just trash. And I won't call them trash. They were better than some of the other previous championship rosters that they had, but they weren't like, they couldn't carry a squad. And it's Mike by himself out there, scoring 49 points and still losing. So, when you see this, it just gives you a better perspective of what this guy went through and how hard he was willing to push it and how mentally focused he was and how driven he was to get his team to that mountaintop and eventually step over and to not let anyone else step on the land until he decided that it was okay for them to step on the land. And we just don't have that today. We don't have that today at all. I'm not going to say anybody's hero's name or favorite basketball player's name, but, it's back to a collective. It's not one guy is just out here able to do what 8 people can't, because, he didn't leave Chicago because there was a big 3 in front of him. Boston was a big 3. He didn't leave Chicago because there was a big 3. He's like, I want to beat these guys. And he didn't leave Chicago because Detroit had a big 8. He overcame the big 8. So what do you say? I mean, the guy's freaking crazy. It was amazing. I'm loving watching it. Here's something that stuck out to my mind. I'm going to go to my notes here so I don't forget. One, like I said, he did not leave Chicago because they had a big 3 in Boston, because they had a big 8 in Detroit. And we ain't even talking about the Knicks teams that had a big 7, big 8. The Hawks teams that had a big 5, big 6, big 7. The Hawks teams were loaded 1 through 7 also. And, I hope they get some shine in here, because when you went to Atlanta and when Dominique Wilkins came to town, you had the ball, but they also had some dudes that could ball with Dominique Wilkins. Doc Rivers, they had Antoine Carr, they had Kevin Willis, they had Kenny Battle. They had some boys that could ball in Atlanta too. So nobody talks about that. The only thing they want to say is, well, he got beat up the first 6-7 years. It's like, You can tell you're not a basketball fan and you weren't watching those games because it was 1-7 out there when he played Atlanta. It was 1-8 when he played Detroit. It was 1-8 when he played the Knicks. Don't want to hear it unless you were there or unless you watched it. Something else that stuck out to me too is that no one was talking about how the Pistons got their ass whooped in '85, '86, and '87 by the Hawks, by the Celtics, should I say. No one was talking about that. But they always want to quickly point out how the Pistons and the Boston Celtics was whooping the Bulls until Pippen got there. And it was just like, you know what? No. It's like he was a young chef and he needed one more chef with him. Somebody else out there that can handle some punishment and could to put some points in ass. And when he got that, all bets were off. And it was just like you go to cooking class, you learn the recipes, then you learn the formulas at work, and he never looked back. And that is the thing to me that defines the Jordan legacy, that defines who he is. It's like once he figured out how to win, you wasn't getting through that door. You just wasn't. And you wasn't getting through that door in Game 7 either. You wasn't even getting to Game 7. So, you know, I'm glad that they are putting this out. I do not believe that this was approved just because LeBron had won the title and they needed to do something. That's a bunch of crap, in my opinion. But I'm glad that they're putting this out. I think you guys are finally able to see that the rest of the Bulls are playing like calves, as in cows. And he was the only Bull, and then Jordan shows up. You heard him say Charles Oakley was the second best player on the team. And, you know, Charles Oakley is his man, and Charles Oakley plays hard. But if Charles Oakley is your number 2, you ain't going that far. You're not going that far. So when they finally got Pippen and Horace Grant started to show up and get 14 and 15, 16 points a game, they were off to the races. But that's just my opinion. I would love to hear what you guys thought about it. I'd love to hear if you agree, if you disagree, if you are a Bulls fan or not, it doesn't matter. But if you're a basketball fan, I'm sure you're watching this. There's nothing else to do on quarantine right now. So, you know what? Hit me up in the comment section. Be nice. And if you like this video, hit like, hit subscribe, hit notifications so we can talk about episode 5 and 6 next week. So be ready for that. I'm curious to know which player they're going to talk about next. If you guys know something, let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.